It was September 8th, 2011, and it was a big day for the White House. The president, Barack Obama, was about to deliver his speech to the joint sessions of Congress on his jobs plan. The nation was still reeling from the recent recession, and they were waiting for Washington to really start to stimulate the economy and send the confidence that they were going to be able to put food on their tables and that they were secure. Barack Obama was planning on doing just that, delivering a speech, instilling confidence, both in the economy and in himself as president. His team of advisors thought this could be an incredible moment, both if you combine his oratory abilities, the need and the plan. This was going to be something that they thought would be maybe one of the most well-viewed presidential speeches. Typically, for a presidential address, you get 35, 40 million people to watch. They thought that he would break 50. Barack Obama gets up and speaks. And everybody comes back to the Oval Office, and the numbers come in. And as the numbers start pouring in, the smiles start turning into frowns and confused looks. As not only did he not hit 50, not only did he not hit 40 or 35, only 31 million people viewed it. One of the lowest turnouts, especially for him. And everyone had a theory. They lost confidence in him. They didn't believe the jobs plan. This was the beginning of the end. Everybody had a theory until one of the staffers puts his head into the computer and starts to Google and type away at something and picks up his head and goes, I think I know why we had such a low turnout. Because that night was the NFL season opener. Packers, Saints. Now, you could be talking about jobs, putting food on someone's table, but you're talking to America. And America ain't missing Packers, Saints on the NFL opener in Lambeau Field. What, are you joking me? So they tuned into the football game. You see, the president did the one thing that no one should ever do. He messed with primetime. Because when you mess with primetime, you better have something really good. And there is no bigger primetime than football. Well, we're about to hit Jewish primetime. What's Jewish primetime? If you look at the Jewish people and you say, what's the primetime slot of the Jewish people? During the week, forget about it. Like, do you have a second during the week? Like carpools running, going, forget it, that's out. Shabbos, okay, fine. When? Friday night? Friday night for real? We can barely even keep our eyes open during davening. By the time Friday night rolls in, we're all out. Shabbat afternoon. We consume so many calories, like we've taken in enough like to feed a bear for the winter. By the time Shabbat afternoon rolls around, we are passed out. You got a small window of prime time, right? When you go to davening in the morning, right? Like Shachris, half the place is empty. Till everybody rolls in, taking out the Torah, Musaf, half an hour, it's prime time. No? That's why the rabbis give their speeches during that slot, because they know how the calendar works. This is what they do for a living. They know prime time. That's why the rabbi's drasha is always in between the Torah and Musaf, or around that zone. It's prime time. We have a custom. Ufraf is a custom. Where'd that come from? Well, a long time ago, when a guy got engaged, he would go past a gate and get blessings. You need it. Gate's gone. Temple's destroyed. How the rabbis get blessings? You know what they do? They put them and give him an aliyah. You know why? Because it's prime time. And when a guy gets an aliyah that nobody knows, we're a Yenta nation. Who's the guy? For real? Who's he marrying? I can't believe it. I knew her since she was born. That's the mom? They're so young. They're getting married so young these days. And the whole thing starts. He comes down. By the time he gets to the scene, he's got 400 blessings. Prime time. Well, we're about to have Jewish prime time. Think about it. The first prime time slot is taking place on Rosh Hashanah. New Year, first slot. It's a pretty big slot. What do you think the rabbis put in prime time? The first time they take out the Torah, right? Musaf is Musaf. You can't mess with that. But you can change up what you read. And the rabbis, especially in the holidays, during the week you can't, but on the holidays, they can pick whatever they put something in to read. What was the program that the rabbis gave us for Rosh Hashanah? The first ever Torah reading, the first ever primetime slot. So, as many of you know, it's a story of Yishmael. Abraham had 2 kids, Isaac, Yitzchak, and Yishmael. Yishmael became the father of the Muslim world. Yitzchak became of the fathers of the Jewish world. Now, you would think that we've got a lot of stories to open with, right? Like if you were running God's program, you'd be like, okay, we got a lot of stuff. We got Moshe, we got Egypt, we got like a lot of great programs. Like they could have picked from any part of Torah. You know where they picked from? They picked from the story of Yishmael. Yishmael and Yitzchak fought. Yishmael was sent out. He almost died. They had no food left. And he prayed to God. And God made a miracle and saved him. Does that sound normal to you? Wait, the first primetime slot that we have, the Jewish New Year, goes to Yishmael? You couldn't find something about our nation? Like the rabbis couldn't be like, wait, are there no stories about the Jewish people? Nothing wrong with other nations, but like, really? How in the world is that the first slot? What in the world were the rabbis thinking? The first primetime slot goes to the miracle story of the father of another nation. What in the world is going on? So I want to talk to you about judgment. One of the most interesting aspects of judgment that take place during Rosh Hashanah. You see, a lot of times in life, when we understand words or concepts and we translate them over to our lives, we tend to bring a lot of stuff with it that shouldn't belong. The way me and you, or most of us, was raised, it was based on a very simple principle. And the principle is called do, have, be. What is do, have, be? It's a action-oriented way of living your life. And here's how it goes. Do something so that you'll have something so that you can be something. Right? So the kids are little and you go do work, schoolwork, so that you can have good grades, so that you can be a good student. You get older and they tell you do work so that you can have money and that you can be rich. Right? Do, have, be. Do something. And if you do it hard enough, you work hard enough, you're going to have something and then you're going to be something. I want you to be something one day. You hear that? You want to be religious about it? Okay. Do mitzvos, have schar, and be a tzaddik. The way we're raised, and this makes sense when you have little kids, because kids aren't that abstract, and they're little. So you say, put your head down and go. We'll tell you when you get there. Elementary school, high school, whatever. You just keep on putting your head down, and we'll tell you what you're going to become. But being, what do you want to be when you grow up, is always in the distance. Do, have, be. In real life, if you really look at people that have achieved greatness, or when you look at change, what you find is that do, have, be isn't really how it works. Because when everything is do, have, be, you want your whole life to become something. You see, the way change works is actually not do, have, be. The way change works is through a concept called be, do, have. And what that means is a person wakes up in the morning or goes through life and has to make a decision. Who do I want to be? What kind of person do I want to be? What kind of life do I want to have? And when a person makes a decision of who they want to be, that decision actually, in the deepest part of oneself, changes him or her. And once you change who you want to be, then you look out and see, what do those people do? And when you see what they do, you can ultimately have what they have. When a child is born, you can't do have be of being a great dad. You just got him. You make a choice. So I want to be. I want to be a great husband. I want to be a great father. I want to be a great Jew. I want to be a great person. I want to be something. But the way change really happens is when a person makes a decision of who they want to be. If that decision is strong enough, that decision actually informs what they do next. Because your doing really is informed by who you are. And if you keep on doing and doing and doing and doing, you can almost never get the be, which is why people spend their whole life working and they never fully realize their goals. And if you look at the lives of great people have great resolve. They make changes on the spot. They see something and it changed them. Rabbi Akiva didn't do have be. Rabbi Akiva made a choice on the spot. And when he made that choice, that Torah can burrow into my heart, he changed himself. He was a farmer. Yes, he had to do what other people did. Yes, he had to learn. He has to implement the change into his life. He needs the action to implement the change that he makes. But the moment that he saw something, he changes. If you look at the lives of great people, you see there's always a moment where they change. When Avram jumps into the fire, when Moshe gets that shlichus, the ability to run for the Jewish people, when something takes place and they make a choice, that change, that choice is what makes you different. And then the action is reinforcing who the new you is. The whole prism of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur means there's no other way you could be forgiven if you have to do everything. The whole premise of the ability to get forgiveness comes from the premise that I could change myself while still standing in the pews. I have to act on it. I have to implement it. I have to change the neuroplastic connections of my mind. I have to execute on the strategy, but I don't become it when you tell me. I don't become a good student when you give me an A. You think I need you to give me an A? Tell me good. I become a good student when I make that choice. I got to follow it up. Your soul doesn't need action. Your soul needs what's called ratzon, which is will. And this is a major distinction in life. Because when we live in a world of do, have, be, every time we get inspired to change, we have to get started. By the time we get through the process, all that inspiration is gone and we go right back to where we started. This is why we run around. This is why every year you're making the same resolutions. Again and again, we're still looking the same. I'm going to lose weight and be a better husband and be a better father. I'm going to learn more this year. I'm going to be really nice. It's the same. Go back a decade, 2 decades. It's the same difference because the inspiration gets funneled into the doing. The doing takes forever, and we don't think we've actually changed. But when inspiration gets funneled into a strong resolve, when we build up what's called a ratzon, ein hadavar omer lifnei ratzon, posech es yedecha gatzes umasbir lechol chai ratzon, when you can build up a strong will and say, I'm changing my be right now. You look out in the world and things that you've missed are now available to you. That's how they act. And it's hard. Oh my gosh, the doing is what takes that inner be and makes it real, of course. But who you are is who you want to be. What you do has to follow that. We live in this world and we make this major mistake. When we hear the word judgment, we think that the judgment of Rosh Hashanah is based on our doing. Isn't that how judgment works? You show up to the judge and he judges you on your actions, right? Isn't that right? Like, isn't that it? So we come to Rosh Hashanah and we have this like hazy little picture of what's up. Part of it is like, I'm sorry, I'm not better, I'm being judged. And part of it is like, I need a lot of good stuff. So it's like this cross between like, I'm sorry and like, can I go shopping for the future? And it leaves us a little unsure with what we're doing. Here's the problem. If Rosh Hashanah was a judgment day, the rabbis would be really negligent in preparing us for it. If you look at the Siddur, there's no mention of sin. What good lawyer would prep their client by saying, why don't you go into the judge and pretend you didn't do it wrong? And he's like, did you see the rap sheet? I was like, don't worry about it. Tell the judge how much you love him. You hope that he, like, everything works out. And just, like, nod it through and, like, go hang out. Rosh Hashanah makes no sense. There's no mention of sin. It's all about just Hashem. It's all about the Melech, HaMelech, HaMelech, HaMelech. We recite a couple of extra psukim in Shemona Esrei, and we're out having lunch. That doesn't sound like much of a judgment, right? But maybe something else is going on over here. You see, if you really think about it, Yom Kippur really isn't a day of judgment. It's not called Yom Hadin. It's called Yom HaKippurim. Yom HaKippurim is the Day of Atonement. There we mention sin, because the goal of Yom Kippur is to just wipe away everything. It's a Day of Atonement. It's a day where God basically forgives. The Day of Judgment is on Rosh Hashanah, but on Rosh Hashanah we don't mention sin. Doesn't that sound weird? Because maybe the judgment isn't about doing. Maybe the judgment of Rosh Hashanah isn't about doing, which is why we don't mention what we did. So what's the judgment about then? Let's go to prime time. Rabbis are awesome. Let me tell you something. The rabbis are awesome. The rabbis know we're going to make this mistake. The rabbis know we're going to hear Yom Hadin and be like, oh, I know this. This is called Judgment Day. Dum, da, dum, dum. Let me look forward for this to be over. So the rabbis manipulate primetime, which is what they always do. The first story of primetime is the story of Yishmael. Yishmael's a bad guy. He tried to kill Yitzchak. And let me tell you something. Some people after him try to kill Jews too. Not everybody, but some do. So here's the story. Avram basically kicks out Hagar, Yishmael's mom. They run out of food. She leaves this boy Yishmael on the side to die. Yishmael looks up to God and davens. And God's about to poof a miracle to save Yishmael, and the Medrash says, that Yishmael looks down, that the Malachim look down, and they see God's about to poof a miracle for Yishmael. And they turn to God like, are you serious? Like, are you paying attention? Like, you're God. Like, hold on, God, before you poof miracles, like, I'm not telling you to kill anybody, but like, before you start changing nature, like, can you turn to your screen on the left? Like, do you see what this guy's you see what he did? Do you see what's next for this dude? Like, are you sure you want to save this one? Like, because if you just like sit this one out and let this guy just sort of like, it's going to be a lot easier in the future. And God turns to the angels. This is in the Psukim. And he says the following, that is the most, I think, important words that we need to hear on Yom Kippur, on Rosh Hashanah. The pasuk says, "V'yishma Elokim es kol hanar." God heard the voice of the nar. V'yik in Shemayim, God turns to the angel and says, "I'm going to listen to Yishmael." You know why? Listen to these words. V'yikra malach Elokim ha'agav v'tram v'yom la'amacha al tiri. Don't be scared. Ki shema Elokim es kol hanar. They say to the Hagar, God heard the call of the Nile. Well, why in the world would God save him? God goes, I want to give you a secret as to how I judge. You want to know how I judge, God says? You want to know the secret? Here's the 3 words that you should never forget and think about all Rosh Hashanah. It says, you know how I judge? Ba'asher hu sham. I judge a person where he is now. Yes, Ishmael is a bad guy. He almost killed Yitzchak. And yes, his descendants are going to drive me crazy. Right now, this man's a tzaddik. Right here, right now, I see it into his heart. He's real. And I judge people by where they are now. Not their do, their be. Now I'm going to hook them up. The rabbis look at us and go, you want to know why we're putting this prime time for? Because do not miss this day. We are on this earth to be channels for God's glory. We are on this earth to be his nation. who we are and what we desire needs to connect to the master of the world, needs to connect to the overall mission of humanity. If my only goal in life is to be selfish for myself and I see God as Amazon.God and I come to the high holidays and I'm like, can you give me, can you give me, can you give me? Then God looks down and goes, you know who you are? You're a schnurr. That's all you look for me for because you need stuff. You can daven for things. You can appreciate me. Here you are standing on my day and all you got is a list of things. You know what I want to see, God says? I want to see who you are. I want to see what you strive for. I want to see what you're dreaming about. Pray for yourself. Fine. But show me who you are on this day. Basher Husham. What's your B? What's your B? Jewish-wise. If your B is, I'm a doctor and I'm a dad, I'm a son, God's like, am I even in the picture? So you stand before God on Rosh Hashanah. You know what we do? We don't even worry about ourselves. We don't even talk about what we did. We don't even want to focus on ourselves. We look up to God and go, you know what? Let's talk about you. Let's talk about you being the king of this world. Let's talk about a time where I get to experience your godliness, where the world sees you as the master of the world. Let's talk about that. You know what I want to be this year, God? I want to be a big person. I want to be big this year. I want to represent you in this world. I want someone to look at me and go, wow, it's God's people. I want to do that with my family, with my children, my spouse, my colleagues. I want to make you proud. I want to be big. Of course, I need things to do that, but that's not who I am. That's who I want to change my be. We stand before God on Rosh Hashanah, and before we get into the stuff that I did right and wrong, not good enough, blah, 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 breathe, and we look up, and we dream. Because God's looking down at who we are right now. God doesn't think about yesterday, not on Rosh Hashanah. And God's not thinking about tomorrow. Where are you now? When we walk into Rosh Hashanah, we know that we're not enough. We know that we're fallible. We made mistakes. Our backgrounds are different. We know that we're not. We know we're not enough. But we don't have to be enough. We don't have to worry about what we did right and wrong. We have to know about who we want to become. Stand before you, God, today, and I want to tell you my be. This is what I strive to be. This is what I desire to be. And when we act this way and do these things, we are able to access a piece of who we are in a way that we couldn't otherwise. We're able to have God look down on us and see us in a light that could only happen on Rosh Hashanah. The judgment on the true us. Let me read you one quote and then I'll close. Listen to the words from the Baal Shem Tov. Rabbeinu HaBaal Shem Tov, V'Talmido HaMagid HaGadol MiMezrich. Listen to what they said. Not Charlie Harary. This is Baal Shem Tov. This is so powerful. This is like nuclear energy. Sha'akasiva b'Rosh Hashanah hu b'moach ha'adam. The writing on Rosh Hashanah is in the mind of man. Ma sheyatzer ha'adam b'machshavaso. What a person thinking in their mind by Yom Rosh Hashanah, al ma sheye'eru lo b'shana haba. On what he wants to be in the future, zeh ye'eru lo. This is what will happen for him. V'lechein tzarich rak lachshov al atzmo machshavos tovos u'ledemos siyurim tovim al hashana liftoach b'Hashem. When you are thinking big thoughts, that's what gets set into place for your year. And my bracha to this incredible community, that you should have big thoughts this Rosh Hashanah, big dreams. You have a chance to reset your life by your be. Don't get bogged down with what you did and what you're going to do. Just take a breath for 2 days a year. You have lots of time to do the do. 2 days a year, Rosh Hashanah, you get to just be. And decide how big you want to be this year. And ask God to see you for that light. Because your judgment, Basher Husham, could change everything. My best wishes for a chasiva v'chasima tova, a good kibbutz jor, a happy, sweet, healthy, prosperous, and incredible New Year.